Alright, ladies and gentlemen, got another WebBot hit to report. It's not a huge meaningful hit, so to speak, but it is a hit nonetheless. I guess it is a little bit meaningful, you could say that. It kind of coincides with the other things that have been happening lately. The move of silver and gold, down, $5 a day down. So we had a $7 practically day, 26-hour period of about a $7 move. So, you know, there's other things to report. Now, you know, your boy Pastor Dowell did a phenomenal video today. Incredible. And as much as I've known him now for a little while, I know the kind of stuff he talks about. He talks about some of the stuff I talk about: economy, gold, silver, waking people up, the government's not your friend, they're going to take your 401k, you know, all these things. And even though I know he knows about these things and talks about these things, he still can put a phenomenal video together that I'll see and say, man, that was good. That was truth right there, boy. So I gotta give my boy Pastor Dowell some props on that. And secondly, because he mentioned this story today in his video that I didn't hear about just yet, so am gonna steal this part of his video to talk about, because it became part of the WebBot hit. So naturally, I'm gonna have to use it. This is from Fox Business News. Tell me if this doesn't remind you of some of the gold and silver shills. The shills that come in, they're nowhere to be found. And as you know, my arch nemesis, the Obese Beast on YouTube, which has no videos really to his name, no predictions to his name, no nothing, no proof whatsoever he calls anything, and has made 5 or 6 predictions to me in a row, in which all have completely failed, and still claims to somehow get it right. Because silver crashed down right now, he just feels he's winning, and you know, it's the end of gold and silver. It's utter nonsense. Why? Because we just had a 26% in practically 1 day's time move upwards. Show me when silver moved down 26% in 1 day. Oh sure, it moved 15% one day and 10% the day before, for a total of 25% on Thursday and Friday down. But we just had a 26% move straight up in the span of one night. Huh, boy, isn't that interesting? So, anyways, you know, these shills come around. They're nowhere to be found ever before until silver or gold hit a big downward spike, and then they're all over the place. Ha ha ha, we told you guys, la 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 la, this and that. And then the very next day, they're pretty much shut out because, again, it just increased significantly. Anyways, and keep in mind, because some of you may not be able to make sense of this, it was $40 and it lost a total of 25% in 2 days, roughly. That's $30. So that's $10 move total. So what am I talking about right now? $7 move up is even greater than the $10 and 15, or excuse me, the 15% or 25%, and damn, I can't even talk right now. The 10% move on one day, and then the 15% move on the other day. So Thursday, I think, was 10% down. Friday was 15% down. Total of 25% down, which wiped away $10. And again, and if you look at it again on Monday, we had another basically $5 move. It went down to 26 and some change, and then back up to 30. So when it went back up to 30, it actually landed around 32, something like that, and some change. That was the $7 move up. So, but that was one move. So it's not like it took 2 days to do that. It was one single move up. So the single greatest downward move in silver right now was the 15% move that happened on Friday. But just, again, you're probably wondering, well, what are you talking about then? We lost $10 from 40 to 30, and it's only at like 32 right now. So what are you talking about 26% move? Because 25% move downward wiped off $10. But remember, whatever the price is at the time, you take the percentage. So it was 25% in a matter of 2 days it went down. That was when it was $40. That doesn't mean at $30, if you add 25%, it goes back to 40. It's simple math. The bottom line is, what is the move in a percentage basis? What did it move? That is all that matters, by the way. So when you hear a huge move of 26% in a 26-hour period of time, that is a big freaking move. For silver especially. So, now that I've cleared that up, commodities and futures markets. business. Fox Business. This is one of those shills. And this is a WebBot hit that I'm going to read you. On the way up, you heard many $2,000 gold targets. On the way down, the doomsday crowd not only gets bold, but they come out of the woodwork. Monday marked another day of margin calls and on funds liquidating. A low of about 1535 for the gold on the gold COMEX was the lows seen in more than 2 months, in part aided and abetted by more margin requirement news, which is true. Amazingly, the dollar strength is part of it as well, and lower industrial demand for gold and silver being likely. Yeah, it was probably the dollar. You know what? It was probably gold and silver demand. That's probably what it was, yeah. This morning came word that the esteemed market pundit Mark Faber could see gold going back down to 1100. And you know what? It could, but then it might not. But if it does, you open both hands again and buy all you can, because the next shot up is going to destroy the $1,500, $1,600 gold mark, the $1,900 gold mark, etc. I don't know that we'll see $1,100 gold right now. But of course, like I said, I didn't quite think they'd push it from 40 to 30 so quick. But look how rapidly it immediately snapped back up $7, and then, you know, now we've got about $8 to make it back to where it was. And we made that, it could literally happen in a matter of days or a couple, 2-3 weeks. There's no telling. All of the weak hands got flushed out, so now all the big guys are back in the market, knowing, hey, now we're going to sit here and ride the next wave up in gold and silver. So he says, when is a bubble a confirmed bubble? When investors lose money far faster during a price drop than they could have ever made on the way up. Keep that definition in mind. When investors lose money far faster during a price drop than the opposite on the way up. So that must mean the bubble has burst. That's what he's saying. Also, when you can't make up money averaging in. It was just at the start of September that gold hit 1900, and it hardly took 3 weeks to bust to $1,600. So my question would be, okay, so what about 750% on a several years ago basis until now? Gold, what it was, is now, including today, although it may not be 750 right this second, but recently, it was 750. Matter of fact, when it was 1900 something, it was probably more like 800%. What about that? Oh, and by the way, what about silver? Same time frame, just several years ago until now. If you bought in then, $4, $5, $6 silver, etc., it would have been up in the high of the high 40s. When it was in the high 40s, a total of 1,000%. And even today, at the $30 mark, $32 mark, it's still up massively compared to several years ago, and compared to all stocks, all bonds, all oil, all other commodities, they don't come close. So, when is a bubble a confirmed bubble? Interesting. If you think this drop has been severe in gold, look at silver. New York silver was above $40 an ounce last week. We broke $30 today. Even if silver is back to $30.08 today. iShares Silver Trust, also known as SLV contracts, is down 1.5% at $29.52 late in the day, as high as $39.64 just as recently as September 21st. They call it the Devil's Medal for a reason. And the title of this, the bursting gold and silver bubble, both became the Devil's Medal. Oh, that's evil. Stay away from that money, boys and girls. That's not money. That's the devil's work there, and you guys got called out on it. The devil got you. That's what he's trying to imply here. Okay. Gold is down more than 16% from the highs in early September, but silver has lost close to 25% of its value just last week. Honestly, both feel like the devil's medal now. Oh, really? And again, as I have my notes to myself here, and again, it's up 26% in one day. So, at a percentage basis, he's saying we've lost 25% of its value. We just gained 26% of its value in one single day. Boy, isn't that amazing? So what were you saying again? When is a bubble a confirmed bubble? Because you just said it's confirmed when investors lose money faster on the down spike than they did on the up. Or more so on the down. Which isn't possible because we didn't have a single 25% day loss. But we did have a single 26% upping bull run, so to speak. Therefore, that bubble is a bubble brain nonsense out of you idiots at Fox News, who are going to be destroyed in the near future when they see the next high for gold and silver. End of discussion. And no, I can't give you a precise time of when it's going to happen. I do feel still that we could see $50 silver plus, or close to it, whatever. In other words, maybe just over 50, 48, it's hard to tell. Roughly $50 silver before the year ends. I still feel strong. I definitely still feel this. So, after this nonsense article is posted, at the bottom of the same article, there's a poll. What do you think? 70% says, you know what I think? I think you're full of crap, Fox News, and I think we ain't seen nothing yet, that these aren't in a bubble and they're going back up to meet and exceed new highs. Only 15% said, nope, they're done, it was a bubble, end of story. 15, that's all. And 70% says, ha ha ha, nice try, Fox News and your corporate propaganda. Have a nice day. We ain't buying it. And then down here, I am undecided, I'm not sure, was another 15%. So even both combined is only 30% against 70%. End of story. Fox News, CNBC, CNN, all the mainstream media, bozos, are showing their hands over and over and over again, caught red-handed over and over and over again, trying to scare people over and over and over again, and try to lie to you to get you out of that physical gold and silver. We cannot have the people waking up that this is real money. Why not? Because I'm going to read you about 6 pages really quickly and rapidly so I can make this a fast video, trying not to interject as much. This is not the latest WebBot report. This is the one just prior to the latest, which was, I believe, in July 1st, 2011. But it had a lot of detail on the market stuff coming up, little gold, silver kind of stuff that I felt wasn't discussed in great detail in this last report. It gave me enough to understand that there's about to be a mass panic to own gold and silver in the near future. But this one touched on a few things, including that lying propaganda garbage trying to demonize people for owning and holding gold and silver, calling it the devil's metal, ha ha ha, get out of it, okay. There's more in this report than just that and just gold and silver, but I need to read the whole thing because it goes back and forth on a few things. I might as well read the whole thing because it's definitely interesting. You're absolutely going to understand we are entering this time frame of this report for sure. So here I go. There are repeated and vigorous areas of growth within the bankruptcy subset that develop as model space is progressed through summer and into fall. The data shows that bankruptcy will become something of a daily topic as those newly bankrupt are enumerated in conversation. There are, as may be expected, a number of subsets in support of the bankruptcy which are headed by money loss or currency destruction. The data sets in support of the currency destruction over summer/fall northern hemisphere include references to return to point of origin or to have gained nothing in spite of decades of advancement. So, keeping that in mind, where's the stock market taking you in decades, or the last decade even, of advancement? Back to where it was basically in the year 2000. And if you add in inflation, which you should in all aspects of life, because it's there, it's always creeping, it's gone backwards. But has gold and silver, including inflation. Not only no, but hell no, not even close. Gold and silver are phenomenal investments and have proven so over the last 7 to 10 years, and even recent times, obviously. Look at what the price has done. It was just December 2010, not even a year ago, it was trading in the $25, $28 range. Not even a year ago. We've hit 50 since then, back down to 40, hit 30, we're going to climb back up again. They keep trying to play these games, push the margin increases, push this and that to keep pushing it down. And every time they do that, people are just buying and buying and buying the physical thing, telling the paper markets to get out of my face. That price means nothing to me. They're charging $4+ and $5 over spot for some silver items such as eagles, maple leafs at major vendors, coin dealers all over the place. Sure, you can find them for $3 possibly here and there, but it's getting very hard to. Anyway, so again, without me interjecting too much, let me try to continue here. So they've gained these things, right? Data sets supported the currency destruction over summer, fall, whatever, summer/fall, northern hemisphere include references to return to point of origin or to have gained nothing in spite decades of advancement. So that's actually even referring to currencies. So maybe our little dollar rise, hey, dollar's back up to 78 on the index, is going to go right back down to nothing anyways, after, quote, decades of advancement, so to speak. As well as bad omens in early summer speak as scavengers waiting on carrion. Not sure what that's all about. The primary supporting set for gold and silver becomes darkness as model space is progressed through into summer. The primary sets begins to shift to traveling, removing / flight, voyaging as summer northern hemisphere progresses into fall. The data set in support of the gold / silver subsets are uniformly glum with their crosslinks when their crosslinks are examined, as they point to the darkening of the progress of civilization and the oppression of the weak / weakened. Further, the data sets are clearly pointing toward the increase in visibility of the controllers / oppression from midsummer onward. While there are moves already to restrict US of A citizens' access to gold and silver, the data sets with markets entity are globally focused, but as such offer a dim view of the coming years. Now keep in mind, we had the little Forex thing, the little law came out and it said due to this law from the Dodd-Frank Act or whatever, we are not allowing over-the-counter gold and silver sales for this Forex market. It's done. You can't do it anymore. So that could be looked upon as saying, trying to, the controllers / oppression from midsummer onward, and to restrict US of A citizens' access to gold / silver. And a secondary piece to that, of the Forex market, stopping the sales of that, so you can't get it that way. We just had a new contract come out from the CFTC in September, I believe, earlier September, the 10th, or I think it was the 10th. Some new 10-ounce gold contract that you can play just like a futures contract. It is basically a futures contract, but unlike all other futures contract where you can demand delivery at any time and say, here's the rest of the money for the contract, give me the physical good, in this case gold or silver, or in this case gold, this particular contract is paper only. You can never, ever, ever ask for delivery. There's no such thing. You're only allowed to play paper. So there's a secondary thing pushing towards, we don't want people trying to, as it said, restrict access to gold / silver. So there's two things. That in itself is becoming a WebBot hit. And that's not even the WebBot hit I want to talk about. The data sets with market entity are globally, within the markets entity, are globally focused, but as such offer a dim view of the coming years. The darkening of precious metals does not refer to price in dollars or any other currency, but rather to the context of eroding control systems such as debt-based currency versus precious metals. The data suggests now that bankruptcy at the highest levels will soon occur and be used as the reason for internal currency / transaction controls within the USA-based markets, as well as the fracturing / splitting up of the global marketplaces. Please note that the global marketplaces, and it's basically place with the little brackets S, maybe places, whatever is what it's trying to say. Please note that the global marketplace is a context that has been foisted on the planet as a result of the American empire and dollar dominance since 1945. The data sets are pointing toward a splintering of currency context with many of the major failures, bankruptcies, dissolutions, and separations emerging over the next 6 months. The darkening of the precious metals context over the rest of 2011 does forecast a restriction on citizens as well as suppression by government minions of populist activities. Man, I eat certain things sometimes, it just crap, phlegm, or whatever it is, just builds up. So, let me continue. The precious metals as currency substitute has bad times, sub-months, perhaps 5 to 8, as a secondary level support, and dangerous times, some months, 5 or 6 months, as the tertiary level of support. Probably could not get much more grim if it tried. However, on the bright and shining side, the nominal price of gold and silver coins / bars is indicated to soar, escalate, skyrocket, etc. This upward price pressure is indicated to be especially true in the gray markets of the planet. However, the data sets indicate that even the managed markets will respond to new status of precious metals. So when you hear upward price pressure is indicated to be especially true in the gray markets of the planet, what does that mean? Does that mean forget the paper price? If you want the real thing and you go to a coin dealer or a coin shop or whatever, or eBay or wherever you're finding it, it's like a disconnect from the paper market? Or, and this may be an or actually, is it going to be the gray market where I kind of gave you examples of? You walk into the coin dealer and, hey, I've got a bunch of silver I want to unload. I don't want to come in here. It's way more than $10,000. I don't want this to be reported. All right, well, I'll give you $2 under spot price for your silver. I normally pay $1 over right now because of the way the price is, but I'll give you $2 under spot, and we'll make a few, invoice transactions, little deal on the side. And is that the market that kind of takes over? That as far as price points go? I don't know. As model space is progressed just barely into August, the emotional values within the supporting sets for the gold / precious metal subsets increase in the duration, impact, depth, carry, spread, and intensity value members of the precious metals context. The increase in values is most acute in the intensity field and rises very sharply from early August to a plateau that extends in an upward rising arc through September and all the way until the mood and other contexts crash of very early December 2011. Then the emotional intensity value does level off, but still it does not retreat to previous levels as far as we're able to progress model space, which is out through September of 2012. The other values, such as carry / spread and duration, do not ramp up as rapidly as the intensity value. In other words, are we fixing to see some massive intensity in the marketplace regarding gold and silver? Just looking at Thursday, Friday, Monday, and today, Tuesday, the massive $7 move today, and the $5 down Thursday, $5 down Friday, or $6, whatever it was, down Friday. I think it was actually like $4 Thursday, and maybe closer to $6 on Friday, whatever. It was $10 total. I think that's more accurate. $4 and $6. And then Monday, it got pushed down even more during the night, and then came back wiping all of what it did during the night away, up $7 total from the bottom. That would be pretty intense in that period of time, would you not agree? While we're sleeping, we had a $7 move almost. Well, actually during the nighttime, we had like a $5 move. The rest of the day turned out to make it $7, but I think that might be what we're alluding to. So we're going to have explosions up, possibly explosions down, explosions up, etc. If you want to try to play these moves, you're on your own. Don't look to me for advice on when you should sell or not. I'm not ever chancing, oh, this could be a top right now and it may go down, I can make a killing if I sell my silver now. I'm not chancing that. I will not chance that. I'm holding on. The only thing I will do is buy more when it goes down. That's it. If it goes down. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to start continuing to stack a little bit now. As soon as these last 2 payments go out for the credit cards that I told you I put this on to begin with. So 2 more payments and we're done. We have no debt whatsoever at that point. So they don't ramp up, these values don't ramp up nearly like the intensity value, but early November 2011, these values are also elevated to plateau levels quite a bit higher than their positions in summer of 2011. In the case of the duration value, its numbers grow to almost double from July through October, indicating that the daily life impact of precious metals will both grow and persist. Further, the implication is that enough language involving precious metals will bombard the global populace over those 4 months, such that a presence in the background of the mind about gold and silver will persist at this higher level for at least the next year. Did that make sense? The point is that new The point is that new context within the planetary background consciousness or collective consciousness is forming, and the language is indicating that this new view of life, universe, materium, and everything has a much higher elevated place for gold and silver specifically, and in daily world/planetary view. Keep stacking your silver and gold, especially silver. You have more to gain from silver. It will perform better than gold. It already has. It already will. I've already told you that 100 times. And by the way, did gold go up last night? 26%? Oh no, that's right, it didn't. Didn't even come close. But did silver go to the bottom? In other words, gold's moved from 15, whatever the low was, 15 something to 16 something today. Was that a 25% move? No, not even close. But how about last night on silver? Yeah, it was 26% actually. What did I tell you? And don't worry about it. If you missed it, it's going to continue to do so. Get physical silver. In addition to the monetary subsets in support of precious metals, there are supporting sets for gold/silver/other precious metals of the platinum and rare earth groups, indicating or including rare earth gases that continue to grow due to their connection to the new electrics subset. The subset housed in the space goats, well, we'll just call it space entity. I hate that stupid word. Has a number of key temporal markers that should begin to manifest now that we are passing the June solstice. Additional note, he wrote this on the 21st of that time. But please note that solstice as a word actually means stand still and refers to that time of year when for 3 days there is no apparent movement of the sun, either north or south, in its daily rising position. Not that the sun actually moves, of course, but that's what he's talking about. That's what he said. The new electrics context is concerning the previously forecast new inventions, devices, methods, which will be emerging in the power generation field. A number of previously forecast temporal markers in this area of new electrics have already manifest over spring, with various announcements and demonstrations, and now our expectation is for the first of 3 dramatic news, press releases, something, announcements in the field of new electric power generation to be made in a series, to be made in either very late July or early August. Now, I did watch a video the other day, literally just days ago, what they call some kind of magnetic motor that was shown to work for a long, I mean, he hit it on and it just kept going. And then after the fact, they completely took the thing apart in an entire press meeting type of room. People had their own phones, camera systems, videotaping, watching him take the entire thing apart, holding it, putting pieces of metal objects to show the magnetic configuration, how things stick to that. There's no batteries, there's no wires, that kind of thing as far as that goes. And this son of a gun was blasting away, spinning fast. First time I ever saw it, and it was recently released. Is that what this is talking about? Well, probably somewhat. It may not be the thing, but it's coming out now. It got some press actually. So well, I'm just gonna throw that in there. That's not even important what this is. So it says this should happen again either late July or early August. It could be sooner, but other intertwined components would seem to suggest slightly after midsummer. So slightly after middle of summer. You know, whatever. I guess we just passed that recently. These dramatic setting press announcements are forecast to spill over into the monetary discussions, price movements around silver, and to a lesser extent gold. And from what he said, silver has something to do one way or another with one of these machines that makes it extremely important to have physical silver. Because then you could possibly build one or have yours melted down to build one yourself or something. I don't know. Resetting model space back to mid-July, the markets entity has several divergent and more or less equally urgent linguistic structures develop in which contexts such as spillover into politics and currency wars, and he says what, quickest to the bottom, and jagged edge downward ride will each branch out with rising values in duration and intensity of the context. Did I not just read something, was it from Brazil, I think? President, female, if I got the right place, coming out, United Nations meeting, talking about let's not get into currency wars right now. I think she may have even used that word. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Is that another WebBot report coming true that I didn't plan on having come true right now? Hey, sounds pretty good. So it will reach, and jagged edge toward downward ride will each branch out with rising values in the duration and intensity of the context. These descriptor sets argue for a very deep and very intense period of what can best be described as planetary political surgery, in which the cancerous growth, and he says what, of banksterism, question mark, will be excised surgically. And think about these Wall Street protests that are like gaining more power. Like as the days go by, the Wall Street protest is gaining more power. So banksterism being excised surgically, is that the beginning of this? Now before that happens, the data set points towards this summer 2011 as being the period of excessive response, brackets desperation, that will bring about the outcry from the planetary social body to cut it out. That's exactly what's happening right now in the Wall Street protests. Knock it off, cut it out, you bankers, is what they're crying. Basically. We've had enough, your game's over, stop it, etc. The aware observer will note that they, which is to say the powers that be, or fixing to be were, powers that were, are well positioned to take the upcoming anti-banksterism social backlash, again, Wall Street protest, and redirect it towards some form of anti-capitalism that will likely somehow feed their control system needs. Also note that such periods of vast social movements are times of bespoke peril for all concerned, even though notably to a lesser extent the powers that be are at risk when emotions rule the mob, which in turn rules the day. But to return to model space in the WebBot, we note that the market's entity begins to really lose its internal cohesion over very late summer, which is to say just prior to the September equinox, which we're basically passing from what I understand right now. As model space is moved into September, the market's entity begins to look a bit ill. Did we not see major price movements downward very recently, just prior to silver and gold? And then during the week of silver and gold, the markets were getting smashed too, until like Friday, they finally chilled out. This is spot on. So they look a bit ill towards the end of September or whatever, and bits of it begin to lose their intensity value shading. This is not due to the loss of intensity value in the data itself, but is rather due to the gradually appearing separation between the contexts referenced above. I think I got a page and a half left, or 2 pages maybe, or more like 3. A part of the ill look that the market's entity is showing comes from the look of illness, shallow breathing / pallor, that is forecast to be prevalent within those people working in the market system. And I just want to ask you real quick, how recently speaking, how many times have you seen a picture on even a mainstream media site about the stock market, and they've got some guys on the floor looking like this, or like this? I saw it all last week, almost everywhere. That's another. Is that another hit in the same report I'm talking to you about? Wow, isn't that interesting? So the people who work there will be looking pretty ill, literally, and that's what we're seeing right now. The looking like they will vomit language within the market's entity is internally cross-linked back over to the gold / silver subset, wherein we note a very key set of detailed subsets that include great profits come from small investments. Would you consider, bear with me for a second. Let's say you got in the market at $26 just the other night, literally, like not last night, but the night before. You happen to call that one pretty good, or maybe it's slightly 28 bucks. You just pulled in 23, 24, 25, 26% profit in a day. And you did so on a very tiny investment, known as silver, because it's so cheap. Do you think that might be what he's talking about? And if you did buy in on that, get ready to see where it moves next when the next upward pressure kicks in and really shakes that bottle of soda and blasts off to the next level. you're really going to enjoy saying, man, I got it $26. Boy, am I happy. And those of us who knew well in advance, who got in at $10, $12, $15, even right now at $30, it's a phenomenal investment. So that too would make sense, because as it says, great profits come from very small investment. Boy, I'd consider a $10 Silver Eagle, seeing that it went to $50 recently, and even $40, and again $30 now, and we're going back up again. Don't worry, we're going back up and beyond. Boy, that's a cheap investment that I made a hand over fist, money on. But I'm not selling right now, because I know where it's going to end up ultimately when this whole dying carcass of America ends. And that's going to be hundreds of dollars an ounce. That's when I'll be long gone. So, go ahead and shut this old girl down. It's getting a little freezing in here. The idea percolating up from the detail sets and the accrual patterns is that in fall, Northern Hemisphere, specifically post-September, after September equinox, there will be some references in the mainstream media propaganda press that will go to the greatest shift in wealth in history. He says, the wealth subset is specifically referencing the concept of stored work, in other words, results of labor of the past. This subset is among the primary definition groups for the gold/silver subset of the precious metals context, and is, as such, is truly at the core of the linguistics. This is seen to be a key component in what the data sets are forecasting. The idea is that a return to primacy, or going back to one's roots/beginning, or returning to the past of one's ancestors, so to speak, mentality, will be the settling over the markets over late summer and into fall, such that the data sets are forecasting a very large increase in the language around the idea of you hear that? A return to the gold standard. No. That's why old, as Pastor Dowell calls him, that's why old Ben Shalom Bernanke, I love that, the way he threw that in there. Ben Shalom Bernanke, when asked by Ron Paul says, is gold money? No. Then why do central banks stockpile it? It's just tradition. It's a family tradition. The language is forecast to be so blanketing that it will be showing up in oblique references to a gold standard as the penultimate in many other areas not associated with the markets. The idea is that the language will be speaking to a deep manifestation of emotional change within the planetary human populace. This emotional change is forecast to be planetary, deeply personal, and intensely perceived. This emotional change is described as being toward a fracturing of emotional loyalty to paper/digital currency. The new gold standard language is suggested by the data to be a temporal marker for the greatest wealth transfer in history language. The visibility levels of the wealth transfer language begin to rise shortly before the September equinox, and then to continue rising into the November crashing peak of building emotional tension language. They are currently trying to come up with a $3 trillion banker bailout, TARP fund, whatever you want to call it, in the EU as we speak. As the WebBot also said recently, we are fixing to be had for approximately $16 trillion. They're going to do something again, taking that money from us again. The average sheep is going to buy it, but you and I will know it when we see it. In the bottom line, it is absolutely bullish for gold and silver prices, which means skyrocketing. When you hear the word bearish for gold and silver, that means down. When you hear the word bullish for gold and silver, that means up, in case you don't know these terms. So, noting that the emotional tension values during the run-up in the rapidly building tension language of the crashing peak take a jump of nearly 12 times their base number, then fall back to the base level all within days, and noting that the crashing peak is temporally associated with the language for greatest wealth transfer in history, and further noting that the crashing peak in November precedes a period of planetary political chaos. The specifics for derivative repudiation and paper instrument default and derivatives implosion and systemic bankruptcy all find larger world confirmatory support. Stated another way, just to muddy the issue, the detail level language describing derivatives projectile puking their guts out, and this triggering a planetary populist move away from trust in anything paper or digital when it comes to being a representation of wealth. Did Lindsey Williams tell you or not that exactly what I just described? It's not worth the paper it's printed on. The only real thing of wealth is gold and silver. Nothing else matters. When the EU collapses, you will have mere weeks to get out of anything paper, whether it be dollars, stocks, bonds, etc., and get into gold and silver when you see the Euro/Europe collapse. We are getting close to that day. It's even in the WebBot report now. You better take heed. Gold and silver is the only money. The number of derivatives references in the market's entity has more than tripled over the last 3 months. None of these new, or even the oldest ones for that matter, supporting aspect attribute sets has any positive values at all. He says, probably accounts for some of the rather dismal language about people renaming their streets to Wall Street and Derivatives Valley as political commentary. Last page. While on this note, there are a large number of supporting sets for the global impact of the derivatives meltdown on the social order. Because of the widespread nature of this fiscal cancer, the data sets are indicating that social family fabric will be stressed to breaking across the planet. The data sets include details for rapes, murder, suicides, flight, capture, incarceration, and even execution, all as major linguistic structures still building their supporting sets. The accretion pattern suggests that a period of explosive local mental disturbance will be exhibited concurrently with the derivatives meltdown/implosion that triggers the planetary currency crisis of summer of 2011 and beyond. The movement of the accretion of the aspect attribute sets from early July onward suggests a time of increasing eruption of private hellish stresses into public behavior, with what will seem to be a veritable flood of media reports of all manner of social misbehavior. Note that much of this reporting will be a top-down nature in that it will be about the elites and their various minion classes. The derivative subset has both very extensive crosslinks over to the global pop and populist US of A entities, as well as internal supporting sets that include bespoke, bankrupt, bust, defunct subsets. At first, it was easy to interpret the bankruptcy subset as pertaining to the overall banking/bankster cabal/debt-based currency situation. However, as model space progressed, the linguistics started to resolve themselves into slightly less fuzzy image. The idea coming across from the detail later suggests an out-of-nowhere bankruptcy of a mega corporation, which again was reiterated in the very last WebBot report. It's fixing to happen. This in turn, and boy oh boy, if it was JP Morgan, oh my God, I would have chills. I would do the craziest, funniest video. I mean, you'd hear me screaming and yelling and just glee and happiness. It would feel so good. Matter of fact, just about any bank would probably do that, but JP Morgan would be the one. The big manipulator of silver, the crashing giant. Please note that there are specific references to a public sector government bankruptcy within the USA that will act as both a proximate trigger to a default wave among states and as a temporal marker for the rolling panic. See Global Pop below. Actually, I think I lied to you. I have one more page left. And it's just I do have another page left. The continuing problems for the governments of the EU are as a result of the European populace waking up to how they have been screwed over by the global bankster cartel. The problems, as seen from the officialdom point of view, are not with the screwing over, but rather with the resultant outrage from the populace. It is necessary to remind the reader of this, as our data for the European populace is a bit dioptic, or of two views, so to speak. We have in one eye the descriptor sets of the waking populace, you know what? That I wasn't supposed to read that. That was I printed a whole different page, so I just whatever. That's the end of that. This is the final reason I wanted to do this video for the WebBot hit, whatever. Something about currencies will soon meet constrained resource reality and really negative political climate. The expected chaos of sudden mega bankruptcy and planetary impact will follow, as will our shift, albeit very briefly, into one of the remaining building tension periods in 2011. Speaking of language tension types, the next most immediate shift will be into greater levels, dropping into the bottom of the cup, so to speak, of release language. The period from July 1st through August shows a very contentious time for the populous US of A, as long-pressed grievances are aired. This is indicated by a sudden surge of release language associated with the populous US of A that seems to cover vast areas of the last several hundred years of the social contract, as well as the past wrongs and hidden crimes that will be brought out and discussed. There are indications that the next few weeks will mark the maximum level of release language for this period. I haven't seen any of that yet, for this time period he's talking about. The final piece, he just titled it, Patriots Act. Just is what he titled it. At least part of the building tension within the populous US of A will be caused by the more open attacks on segments of the populace by government. Oh, how about Wall Street? Close down Wall Street rally in New York, police trapping people into these caged, netting, and then spraying them with mace for no reason. That sounds like that fits here again. One of the early signs is the data accretion patterns indicating that by late fall, the minion class officialdom/politicians will have begun a campaign against people who own gold/silver. The new language will be portraying such anti-democratic people as hoarders and tax cheats and unpatriotic, amongst other labels of similar nature. The data indicates that the slurs and lies about metals owners will be a preface/prelude toward criminalizing possession of precious metals. Look for a set of talking points that are anti-precious metals to begin among the pundits in late September. And again, the timing may not be perfect, as I've said 100,000 times, but the bursting gold and silver bubble both became the devil's metal. Oh, really? And then again, he goes on to demonize it, basically, and laugh at you. We told you it was a bubble. I told you so. And even in here, I don't remember if I read this part. Regardless of who said what, you might as well expect to hear nothing but, quote, I told you so calls from those saying gold was a bubble. The price did reach silly levels, but we felt that way after about $1,600 and $1,700 on the way up. Gold started getting so high that we even started worrying about covering it due to a high possibility of losses for readers chasing metals regardless of what was written. So, they're trying to just take credit like we told you so, you idiots who did this, they're trying to demonize us. There's the first piece of that last part of the WebBot report coming true. And get ready for, again, there are going to be two talking heads on TV, probably on the O'Reilly factor, and two guys talking, and hey, these people are tax cheats, there's videos on YouTube, maybe they'll play one of mine. And by the way, Fox News, you have my permission to play my videos, crapping on all of your thoughts and proving you wrong since I've been doing my videos, but you do not have my permission to use a little tiny piece of my video that says like 3 words and then you cut it off so that no one knows what I was talking about, and you try to form the fake public opinion. Yeah, if you're gonna play my video, you need to play the whole thing so that you can shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak, when you realize I crush you with my knowledge. So that's all I got for you, and I gotta run inside now because I'm sure my wife is waiting for me to go in there and help out with the kids. Gotta go. Take care.